Glad to be here.
Welcome, everyone. You are joining an Entrepreneurs Forever program called In Good Company. It's a program that we put together that features our members of our entrepreneur support peer groups talking about something that we've heard buzz about, that we want to plug into the wisdom of the crowd, which is really kind of the whole point of Entrepreneurs Forever. We've done them on owner's compensation. We've done them on social media. And today we're going to be talking about e-commerce. And we have 3 panelists. We're supposed to have 4. We had somebody had to cancel. I'm going to share screen. You don't need to see that. You probably don't want to read my email either. I'll find it. I know it's here. You get to all watch me learn my way around how Macs work, and I can never find what I'm looking for. Sorry about that. We'll get that going. There we go. And we are gonna view slideshow. And don't worry, you're not going to be watching me limp along technically all day. Okay. I make money with e-commerce. I think we've changed the title a couple of times, but the idea is these 3 panelists know something about how small businesses work with e-commerce. I'm Deborah Gallant. I think I was wearing this very same thing in the picture. I'm the Senior Program Manager of Entrepreneurs Forever, and my co-facilitator today is
Harold Bear. Good to be with you guys. I own a marketing firm here in Pittsburgh and help a lot of different clients with their e-commerce and websites functionality. So I'm very happy to be here.
All right. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk just a moment or two about Entrepreneurs Forever, since we get some folks who don't know what our program is about. Talk about some upcoming learning opportunities, introduce the panelists, and then let them tell us their story about their businesses and also about how they're doing in e-commerce. And then we're going to hand it over to Harold to take it from there. So Entrepreneurs Forever is a 501c3 that supports the success of small business owners with monthly peer support groups. And I love this. I know our marketing director is here because business ownership doesn't come with an instruction manual or a support hotline. It's a wonderful way to check in with other business owners and stay accountable. We have monthly supported peer groups with 10 to 12 like-minded business owners, a professional facilitator. Harold is one of them. I'm also one of them. Structured and unstructured time. We're not a networking group, not a casual drop-in program, and not classroom teaching. We like to put up our mission statement because I think we try to stay true to this in all of our interactions. We believe in you. And one of the reasons we showcase our members today is because we think you guys have the wisdom and we want to share that. If you're hearing about our program for the first time and you want to know more, this is the QR code. Give it a quick scan. I always like to mention our upcoming events because by the time we get into the program, I never have a chance to come back and mention it again. Next Monday, Valuing My Business, and our guest presenter next week is our CEO, AJ Drexler. She's going to talk about the different methods to value your business and why you might need to value your business. And then on October 13th, we're doing a Forever Forward on the 4 P's of marketing. Harold, can I quiz you? Do you know what the 4 P's of marketing are? Wait, you're muted anyway.
Price, place, product, and position, I believe.
Product?
I got 3. I got 3 out of 4.
Yeah. Anyway, come meet me and learn about that. These are our 4 presenters, panelists. Actually, Nicole may join us, but she had a family emergency. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in more detail in a moment, but Caroline Laye is a member of our Cape Cod group, I believe, Atlantic Soap Company. Sean Maloney. Sean, I don't know what group you're in, so you have to remind us. 13 Stars Hot Sauce. He's the one who's telling us about being at the Big E to sell. And Kirsten Lowe-Rebel, who is an artist who specializes in beautiful pen and ink drawings. All right, Kirsten, now you get to show your chest. These are the drawings that Kirsten does. And so I'm going to just call on each of them for about 3 minutes to give us sort of the background, who their business is, how they got started in e-commerce, and then we're going to go to the Q&A. I want to point out that this is really meant to be interactive after the kickoff. So after they do their introductions, Harold's going to take it from there. We've given them some questions that we could ask, but we would really prefer it if it's you asking each other and the audience asking questions, because then they're not made up. They're things you really want to know about. So whether it's how do you do fulfillment, or which shopping cart, do you like PayPal versus Squarespace? This is your chance to ask all those questions. So before we go any further, let's let Caroline have her 3 minutes of glory. And I'm also going to give you links to all of their websites if you want to look at them as we go. So Caroline, you're on.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. So my name is Caroline Laye. As Deborah already said, my business is called Atlantic Soap Co., and I am based on Cape Cod. My website is atlanticsoapco.com if you want to check it out. And I think Deborah's going to put it in the chat. So I started my business in 2019. And at that point, e-commerce was not really part of the equation. I started out doing sort of fairs and in-person events, and that was pretty much my entire revenue stream, selling in person at various pop-ups, markets, that sort of thing. So then, like so many of us, when 2020 came along and surprised everyone, I had to switch that up because markets were all canceled. And so obviously I had to start thinking about getting the website going. And I think that I started the business in 2019. I don't think I even had a website at all until maybe July of that year. And it was pretty rudimentary and I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And I didn't really have any idea how to get anyone to find it. I just figured I'd have it there, but it was kind of on the back burner. So obviously that all had to change. And so actually in preparation for this, I was sort of crunching some numbers and looking at some analytics from past years. And in 2020, my online sales jumped by 700% over 2019. So obviously that was partly due to the fact everybody was at home, but I also worked really hard to say, okay, this is how I'm going to survive, if at all. So I've got to think about this. And I did a few different things. First of all, my website is a Shopify website, and it was since day one. I shopped around a little bit on the different platforms and thought that one was really going to be the best for me. I started out on the very basic plan, which I think is something like $30 a month, which was comfortable for me at that time. They've got a lot of free themes. I built it all myself. I took all the pictures that were on the website myself and put it up, and it looked pretty good for a homemade website. And it was functional. You know, I didn't need to get any professional help to get it up and running. So that sort of served me for a year and a half. And through the pandemic, you know, there was a lot of people that were thinking outside the box and getting people together online. And I took advantage of as many of those opportunities as I could, sort of online pop-ups, various sort of online markets, everything that I had the opportunity to do, I did all of it. And that got my name out there in ways that I think would have taken a lot longer, honestly, in a different environment in terms of getting my name out there online. So what I did then in 2021, I rebranded. So new logo, new package design for the soaps, but part of that was also rebranding and redesigning the website. I did that kind of secondary, like sort of phase 2 in my rebrand. I also hired a product photographer to sort of showcase the rebrand and to really, you know, if you've got these beautiful products, but your photos aren't great, then it doesn't really matter online. And a lot of people thought I had completely redesigned my website even before I actually did, based on the better photography. So then when I actually did have someone come in to optimize my website, make sure it really performed well, make sure it really looked its best, with the branding and the photography, that's when things really started to take off for me online. So those kind of three things for a product-based business like mine, where visual, desirability is so important. That was kind of the magic formula for me. I will say that it's good that we're doing this now, because half of my online business that I do during the year occurs during Q4. So this is a really good time to be thinking about this stuff and to be getting in line, holiday campaigns. Email campaigns are a huge way that I drive people to the website. That's one of the biggest things that you can do to drive your online sales. Build your email list and then send them quality emails that they actually want to read.
Right.
And
I think that's a
yeah.
good start, Caroline. And
Okay.
actually, I want Carol to make sure you put a pin in the question about who did she use to help her with the different things? Because it sounds like it started as a do-it-yourself, but you needed that certain.
And then I brought in people that were better at things than I was.
And they seem to have been deployed very strategically, which is something we'll talk about, because you can't necessarily outsource the whole thing. All right, I'm going to go to our only guy, Sean, next. If you want to sort of give us the overview of your business and what you're doing in e-commerce, and the sort of lessons you've learned. Is this just a kickoff?
Sure, yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Sean Maloney. I'm the owner and founder of 13 Stars Hot Sauce. We were established in 2019. We are a veteran-owned and operated premium hot sauce company. A portion of our profits go back to support U.S. veteran and first responder causes. So a big part of our company is really about the mission, so giving back to the cause. We got started in e-commerce right from the get-go. We knew since we launched in 2019, obviously right into COVID as well, it seemed like a blessing at the same time of being able to have something in place for us to have an extension of ourselves. So when we are at shows and events, we are able to say, hey, go to the website, check it out. This is where you guys can find recipes. This is where you guys can find everything you need. The website itself has gone through, I would say, about 4 major overhauls during the past 3 years. I think the biggest inclusion, and we can talk more about all the tools that we use exactly, but there was a couple of major players that really helped us get it to the next level. And as Caroline talked about, so email is a big part of your owned marketing, and that's a huge tie-in to your website. Your website essentially needs that to thrive. So having all that available to you, all these tools, Shopify is the other website platform that we use as well. So it just ties in nicely to a lot of the other extra things we're using. But as of right now, e-commerce is a large portion of our business.
What percentage would you say it is, Sean?
I think it's about 60%. 40% it goes into wholesale, or split between wholesale and our events and shows.
Great. And we will have plenty of time for Q&A, but that was great. Now, Kirsten, I think one of the things that's different about your story, I know because we talked just the other day, is that you've been in existence before COVID, right? So you actually had some existing business and then added e-commerce to a different mix. So tell us your story.
Yeah, I guess I might be in business the longest, but possibly the slowest learner. I started with Etsy like right out of college, and I studied art. I mentioned to Deborah, I'm a little number blind, so I apologize. I'll be more abstract. But I do have 3 channels of business. So I would say, in person, I have done the market since the get-go. I think that's your best, in person is just how, to sell your work and yourself. I think the best to, see products in person. Smell with soaps too. I was thinking like, when are we going to get the AI for scent? Because that would be awesome for for you. Wholesale. So I do sell in shops, which I would say is the third, and then e-commerce. So I started with Etsy, and first of all, I draw pen and ink architectural work mostly, and I say it's architecture to use, wear, and gift. So I kind of has rolled out into like a whole product line. It started with just the drawings, the prints itself, and then always trying to have new products, different price points for shoppers that feels good to have, you know, a piece of Pittsburgh mostly as my subject matter. As I expand, I'm here in California now, which is part of my biggest learning lesson is to step away. I was saying a little bit before the call, that's helped me release a lot of my own, you know, learning how to delegate is still my issue, but having the help and kind of removing myself physically from the business for a few reasons has been really helpful for me in letting go so I can, you know, grow. I think it's my place to be doing more of the drawing. But yeah, so going back, it was like 2013. My biggest jumps were to 2014 and then 2015. So this is way before the pandemic. I would say I've kind of plateaued since then, and it could be because I've really like spread out and I, you know, have my hands in a lot of things. I do commission portraits, which could be its own, I think, driver to my Shopify website. Like it's almost 80%. It's something, you know, it's really just somewhere I send people to place their orders. But on the other hand, Etsy for me is really where I get strangers across the country. A lot of people who love Pittsburgh are worldwide, which is fun to find.
And when you sell through Etsy, you have to pay an Etsy commission, right?
Yeah, to me the fees are pretty low. I mean, there's a lot of like controversy. I know like artists have issue. There's pros and cons to Etsy, but when I've been used to selling in shops, so that's a 50%, you know, giveaway. That not that it isn't. I'm for shops, but I'm used to a high percentage, so I built that into my cost.
So Kirsten, what percentage of your sales are online versus in-person shows and things like that?
So I would say 50%, but I was saying that 80% of my sales really happens at Christmas. So yeah, it's between that and in person. So I would say out of the 50% that's not e-commerce would be the in-person sales from the shows and wholesale, which has, for me, decreased since COVID, like immensely, a huge. So I've, if anything, yeah, that's been my new. I've had some help with the background, which we can talk about in a little bit, but the Etsy algorithms and how it's a little bit of a game. You kind of have to keep it agitated all the time, but like for me, a lot of these things, like whatever route you take is going to be kind of like that with SEOs and things. So I'm lucky to have had a partner for some help with that.
Cool. Cool.
Okay, so that was the introduction. And if you haven't checked it out, in the meeting chat are all 3 of those websites. So I encourage you to visit them. But Harold's going to lead the conversation about asking questions. But here's the thing. This event is meant to be interactive. So if you'd like to ask your own question, describe your own situation, use the little raise your hand function. We'd much rather have you ask your question than typing it in chat if we can avoid it. So Harold, you're on.
Yeah, so just we'll do a foundational question here. Basically, when you created these e-commerce sites, did you do it yourself or did you hire someone? Carolyn talked about doing it herself initially and then hiring someone. Kirsten, Sean, did you guys create your own first sites or did you immediately turn to professionals for help?
I started on doing myself. Etsy's pretty easy, user friendly, so it was pretty good to propagate. And I have had help now that I'm on Shopify. I've went through Wix, Squarespace over the years, and now Shopify, which I would say is the most comprehensive. And yeah, but I've had a little bit of help here and there with writing copy and things like that.
Sure, sure. Sean, how about you?
Yeah, so the vast majority has been done by myself. I do have a background in website development, not necessarily anything crazy, but just I've always enjoyed graphic design and those things. So it's more along the lines of me being stubborn enough to figure these things out and get it working, getting optimized. So a little bit of stubborn goes a long way of getting the website where I wanted it to be. There's definitely times where I have incorporated other companies to help with point me in the right direction, but the vast majority of the actual quote unquote work that needed to get done was done by myself. Product photography, stuff like that, I definitely have I learned just so much. It's one of those really valuable resources. I think product photography is probably one of those golden things. There's a bunch of really cool classes I can point you guys towards as well that helped me.
Gotcha. And you've talked about in your intro that you basically on the third or fourth iteration of your website. So it's gone through lots of different updates and changes to kind of stay present with the, search engine optimization and all the things that, and the different platforms offer different qualities that make them more valuable or less valuable depending on what you're selling and how you're trying to position your company. Shopify seems to be climbing into the #1 spot based on a Gartner group report that I read from the beginning of this year, that it is kind of it hits all the buttons from, especially for small business, medium-sized businesses, and obviously a handful of you guys are using that. Any other questions? I have a list of questions I can go through, but if anybody out there in our viewer land here would like to ask a question, please do.
Or if one of you wants to ask each other a question, Caroline, Kirsten, or Sean, you're welcome to pick each other's brains.
I have a question about e-commerce. Like, I don't do Shopify because I built my website on WooCommerce on WordPress.
Sure.
And so are we going to talk about that at all, or?
Well, yeah, we're basically talking, we're not platform specific at all. It's just that the people that here, two folks on the line have used Shopify. I think Caroline, yours is Shopify.
Because a lot of times that's all it is
Mine
Shopify.
is Shopify. Yeah, mine is Shopify.
Did you guys look at other options?
Yeah.
I don't want to do Shopify because I don't want them taking a part of my profits. I want my profits for myself. And so, yeah, it took me a little bit more time. I know that Shopify is big now, but so are other platforms, and Shopify could leave at any time. I wanted to be able to have the ability to keep my website to myself all the time.
And Tanya, I understand that completely. I would say most of the websites we build are using WooCommerce, which is the #1 e-commerce platform in the world.
Yes.
And its customizability and its handshake ease of useness with WordPress is one of the reasons that happens. And I love it. So I get where you're coming from. A lot of the times that requires a programmer to help build those sites. It's a little more techy than using a platform like a Shopify or Salesforce, things like that.
Yeah.
So no, I get.
Can I ask a question about those sites? When you're doing like credit card because I assume there's still like a third party for
payment, right?
But it's only right. Okay.
Yeah. So Tanya,
what do you use? Is it something called Stripe, or what are you connected with?
I use Stripe.
Okay.
I'm interested, Kirsten, that you have your Etsy store, and the thing that's best about Etsy is that it brings people in without you having to necessarily do outbound marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah, the tags.
But you still felt like you needed your own store on your own website, correct?
Yeah, probably for the same reason. I mean, it's a little less than Etsy, so maybe I work backwards. Like, I think that would be great in, time to not give such a percentage away, but I was happy to do it just because I'm not tech savvy when it comes to website design and things like that. So,
and Kirsten, you alluded to that basically you have to kind of stay on top of Etsy even. And I know Diane's a big Etsy user as well. And she's talked about in our peer group meetings that basically you have to do a lot to kind of to stay at the top of it and to stay at the top.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm noticing that a lot. Yeah, I call it like agitation because I was working with Peter, who's kind of my studio manager, and he runs his own really successful business. I'll also tag his, he makes bolo ties with his wife, and they're incredible on Etsy. And he sets alarms throughout the day to do like updates and just like refreshes. So, I mean, we're talking cents in the long run, and really that's the only marketing I do. I know I want to like look into that more, but yeah, for me, it went from, well, first of all, having a cohesive brand and a line has been very helpful in the tags, that I have a very specific product that's a very, Pittsburgh specific. I think all of that really narrows down your conversion rate anyway of views to sales. So
how important was SEO embedded into these programs when you made a selection for one of the platforms that they offered reasonable SEO tools within their platform?
Very high up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would say at the time it wasn't
Wasn't.
something I was thinking about because I didn't even probably know that acronym yet. But yeah, I do find that Shopify is really easy to sort of manipulate your SEO, and to sort of put that right in your product description pages or wherever it is. I think they make it very user friendly. So yeah, that's been a big, I mean, one thing I'll say too, in terms of Shopify fees and things like that are, I mean, there are credit card fees for sales that are cash. I don't pay them anything, for those. There's a monthly fee that I do pay, but what I get for that is actually kind of a lot. I've got, native email marketing, native and automations, which is huge. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself tech savvy, and I know that there are other email platforms where you can do automations that are way more sophisticated than what you can do in Shopify. But for me to have that all in one place and and by automations, I'm talking about like cart abandonment and like, hey, you checked out this item, come back and shop. And that's not extra. That's part of the plan. And the analytics are like, the analytics are awesome. So I mean,
it's
I
a
guess
shipping platform as well,
it is a ship. I don't actually use Shopify for shipping. I use Pirate Ship. If anyone's heard of that they're awesome. I highly recommend that. And that's
that
an
integrates with Shopify.
Yep. It's an app that you can just easily add to Shopify. And the rates are awesome. I just got
better
something
than
shipped to me by another brand, and I don't know, for whatever reason, the price that she paid to ship it was right on the label. And I was like, oh man, I would have paid way less than that if I'd been shipping this. I almost wanted to weigh it and see what it would cost me to ship it. I'm like, I want to email her and say you should be using Pirate Ship because you're paying way too much for shipping. So that's another great one to add. But yeah, I guess I just I don't know. I guess I just feel like it's kind of the part of the cost of doing business. And as Shopify has their whole app too, the shop app that you can be a part of, which is a way that I think more and more people are actually finding things. I've got a lot of customers that I know that found me that way. So I don't know. I mean, I think that them being so huge does have certain advantages. To just be able to find them.
I want to ask a shipping question because Sean, I actually facilitated one of your peer groups a million years ago, and you were talking then about the cost of shipping a $10 bottle of hot sauce and how complicated it was that people would buy it, and then the real cost to you to ship it was $5, and they're like, I'm not willing to pay $5 to ship a $10. So how have you figured that out? It's a problem a lot of companies have.
Yeah. It's one of those things where basically if you're not offering free shipping isn't actually free. It just essentially means you're eating the cost as the business owner. So it's realistically, what are you willing to work with? What are your margins? What can you realistically make? So basically you have for us, we found the threshold is about $30 worth of product. We'll be able to equate anywhere in the continental United States. We'll be able to handle the free shipping. And then past that is just all gravy. So it really is about knowing your margins and being able to work with it. There's a couple of tools online. You can just Google search working with it, or you can put in the Shopify or whatever platform you're using to kind of handle that. But I did want to talk about a little about what we were previously discussing. And I think the biggest part of the e-commerce journey isn't necessarily the tech stack you're using. Whatever it be Ecommerce, whether it be Shopify, what have you, it's more about the foundational pieces. You can, I'm not saying don't go shop around, figure out what works for you and what your business, because there's a million different ways to get to success. And the foundational parts, at least in my opinion, this is more of the testament to what we have done and what's worked for us, really is building that foundational aspect of understanding who your customer exactly is. And this is going to be relevant to regardless of what platform you're using. And then your email automations and campaigns, and it doesn't matter what platform you're using, it's whatever works for you and your business. For us, a big part of the retention model, keeping customers engaged, is really about getting people to buy a bottle again, because it's a consumable product at the end of the day. And if you're in that market with consumable products, a large portion of our customers are going to be people that are coming back to buy again. And then past that is going to be your optimization phase. So I would say you got to know your customer, get your email automations down, and then from there, really optimize your website. And then at that point, you can pretty much open shop to paid marketing or organic marketing from the same time. And I would say and/or. So probably include both of those options in there. I think those are probably the biggest foundational pieces. So in summary, would be knowing your customer, exactly what the avatar looks like and how they shop, what have you, figuring that stuff out. Because that is by far the bottom of the pyramid. That is the foundation. You can't do anything without knowing your customer and who you're trying to sell to. Build upon that would be the email and the website optimization. And then from there, you can get into marketing, whether it be organic or paid. I would probably say and organic and paid, do both. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't.
Right. And part of the process of selecting a platform is, are you comfortable making changes yourself, or are you going to be bringing someone to do it for you? Right. Because because if you can't make changes to your own website, you're kind of crippled in a lot of ways, unless it's something you are comfortable doing. So that's another selection criteria for sure in terms of picking a platform. The other thing I wanted to ask was, when you're picking these platforms, you've talked about multiple ways of selling: in person at shows and events, selling online, selling wholesale. Inventory management is a big part of that, right? How do you know how many jars of sauce you have in stock? Carolyn, how much soap do you have? So are these platforms serving you well in terms of inventory management across multiple sales methodologies, multiple sales places?
Yeah, so a big, go ahead.
I was actually going to opt out of this question because I go strictly by category for ease of, that's a next year issue. But yeah, I go by category so I can just see, like, by towel, like in person, I'm selling a towel, a magnet, a print. I'm not going into the 80 drawings that I have. So I haven't figured out how to wrap my mind around that quite yet. So
Okay.
Sean, take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine working with 80 plus SKUs. That's a lot of headache, it sounds like. So we have currently a 6, and that's still a handful. So a big part of integration with Shopify that we used, and I'm assuming I don't know enough about WooCommerce and other options here, but the inventory management part does aspect between the website and our point of sale. So say we're either going to the website and have a sale online, or we have a sale at a vendor show, it's still going to tie into the same inventory. We also back that up with QuickBooks Online to kind of do a little bit of accountability to make sure, hey, there's loss or what have you. And then we do also have some internal tracking for pre and post show sales. We take inventory before and after, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of getting to the minutia of it, but inventory tracking is a big part of it, and knowing exactly what you sold and kind of where your metrics are. Because we have a North Star metric of bottles sold. So basically every single month we sit down and we go over our QuickBooks Online and kind of figure out, hey, did we sell more bottles than last month? Yes, no. Why did this happen? So it helps us guide our direction and decision-making process. Was it a pain in the butt to set up? Absolutely. It was it was quite obnoxious to set up initially, but once it is set up and running, it just informs a lot of our decision-making process in terms of you can think big picture of when we need to produce sauces, what's selling more based on other items. So it really can point your direction and effort. So you're not necessarily flying as blind as you would have been. So I think inventory, as for honestly any company, is absolutely important. There's probably apps that could do a lot better of a job than what we're currently utilizing. But the native integration with Shopify is what we use. Has been good for us. It's a little wonky here and there. That's kind of why QuickBooks helps with that. But at the same time, it does well enough for us to work with it.
And Caroline, you're using it for wholesale. You're using it for sales.
I do. I use it for all of my sales channels. So wholesale, in-person sales, and online sales, and sales through Fair, there's a couple of other websites that sell my products and integrate directly with Shopify. So in terms of inventory management, I use that. I have, I think, 50 SKUs, so not quite as many as you. But I never could keep track of all of that otherwise. And then I've got, seasonal and everything. And so I've been really looking at all that data as I'm determining how much product I need to make for this upcoming holiday season. Where did I sell those things? Who did I sell them to? Wholesale versus direct versus, all of that's really important to have at your fingertips and to be able to run reports. I will say, just because you mentioned QuickBooks, that for me, I do use QuickBooks Online for my bookkeeping, but I didn't like the integration with Shopify aspect of that. So I actually don't integrate those things on purpose. For each product that I sell, that product is going to have a sale price and a cost of goods associated with it. And then in QuickBooks, I have, certain things. I buy 44 pounds of coconut oil, and that goes into cost of goods. And so I try to sort of, periodically make sure that those numbers are sort of the same, or sort of are making sense with each other. They're never going to be exactly the same. Anything that I sell, the prices of everything change so much that those cost of goods associated with each item are pretty accurate. I've got so many ingredients in each product that it's not like I buy it for this much and sell it for this much. It's always changing. So I just try to, between those two things, make sure that I'm staying on top of it. But it's awesome if that works for some businesses, but for me, it didn't, to integrate the two. I use them both, but I use them separately. Because having them talk to each other was actually just confusing the issue more.
I think every tool doesn't work for every business, and I think that figuring it out for yourself. Harold, may I hijack it for just one moment? There's a question I'm dying to know, because Sean said you need to do organic, you need to do paid. Paid advertising, paid search online is scary because it feels like you have no idea what's the right thing, what's going to convert. And the great thing about digital marketing is you can measure things, right? You can see if the sale came from that. Can you tell us about your journey with organic and paid? Did you do it yourself? Did you make those decisions? How much did you throw away before you actually got a sale? Tell us a little bit more. That's part of the game, right? Is learning what you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, paid marketing is a monster in itself. It's one of those things where you should always be doing organic, based on your business model. There's always exceptions to everything. There's always a gray area. But for our platform and what our mission is, we definitely feel that social media is a big part of it, and the organic growth between or Instagram or Meta, what have you. And figuring out what content will engage your customer and you're happy to make at the same time, I think is probably that magic mix of time and effort that you're eventually going to find out, and trial and effort too in there as well. But once you're starting getting to paid marketing, realistically, and especially if you do not have extra help, we use a products platform. I have a hard time putting an exact label on it, but it's called Merchant Mastery. We paid a good chunk of change for it, but basically it's a program that it talks about those foundational pieces that I talked about earlier. And then the last key to it was the paid marketing aspect, and they'll actually mentor you through the whole entire process. That's been a godsend for us, for being able to articulate and understand what all these random acronyms and all these other things. But in terms of actually putting a price point on it, again, depends on your business, depends on your standard for what your conversion rate is. Like for food and beverage, it's around 4%, give or take. Only 4% of people from your website will actually convert to a sale. Say jewelry is like 0.25%, but you have a significantly higher percentage or value per item. So it depends. But for us, we spent around, the horror story, the first one we spent I think $600 over 4 days. Don't do this. Lessons are, don't do this thing. If it's not working for you, shut it off. I would usually aspire to give it about 72 hours. We put a little bit too much money into it, and this is really why that Merchant Mastery came into play.
So
and
what were you advertising? What didn't work?
So it was a combination of realistically the creative. So creative is the actual picture or video you're using. It's the main feature there. So the combination of the creative and the copy. So copy is the copywriting, the actual words that were there. It just wasn't clicking with our customer base. But I think the biggest aspect of it was knowing your customer, that foundational piece. If you don't have that, knowing your customer, and it's dialing it in, I think that's the biggest part about paid marketing, especially, well, this is more oriented towards Meta, but it can be pushed to other paid marketing avenues once you really dial in that customer. But it was, hey, what are these likes and needs? We were starting off with, hey, people that like barbecue sauce, people that like cooking, people what have you. So it was really just dialing in more towards the veteran crowd and the veteran and first responder crowd. So that really has been our bread and butter.
When you narrowed your message and your target audience to supporting veteran owned and they like hot sauce and food, that's when you got results.
Correct. There's a really good book that will explain all of this. It's called The $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy. You look at them at Amazon, it's literally $1. It's unbelievable amount of value for $1. The gentleman himself, he's a YouTuber or what have you, but he really talks about the exponential factor of all these things and kind of helps you build that offer and understanding the customer. And the offer itself, he has a common saying in there. It's just like, create an offer that makes the customer feel stupid for saying no. And that's really about, it aligns really nicely with the merchant mastery and what they're talking about and how you're building out that copywriting, that picture. So we're still dialing in every single day. It's never a set thing, but I think the biggest part of it would be finding that customer, and dialing that aspect in, and the copy and the creative itself will change over time. That's just the nature of Facebook trying to get more money out of you.
Well, I think
gotta pay to play.
I think that you're making a great point. Is on digital, you're going to get lost in the noise if you aren't very specific. And at the Big E, it could be any foodie who walks by. I mean, the veterans may be more engaged, but it's a different audience for a different medium. Caroline, you talked about how during COVID, you had opportunities to do pop-ups and be visible. Now that it's not COVID time, how are you getting audience to buy your soaps?
Yeah, so I am utilizing mostly Meta ads, is how, in terms of paid marketing, is my primary way that I do that. And Sean said a lot of really important things, and some of those are to know your audience, to target your audience, and probably it's worth paying somebody to help you like define those audiences for Meta. Because if you're hitting that boost my post button, then they're just sending it to whoever. That's the sort of, that doesn't do anything specific. That's just throwing money away, basically. And I didn't know that at first. And I thought, I'll just boost this for like $20 and see what happens. And like nothing happened.
So Caroline, who's the audience that when you drilled down and you worked with an expert, what did you find?
I've got a few different metrics that are built now into the audience that I send things to. And so I've done sort of mirror audience of the people that have purchased from the online store. I've got, age and gender specified, location specified, and you can kind of go on these smaller audiences, and then you can go broader as well. And then you can, build a cold audience, who's maybe the same as your warm audience, but they haven't bought from you yet, but they're the same kind of people and they're clicking on the same kind of stuff and they have the same kind of interest. So there's a lot. I mean, again, I paid someone to help me with this because I'm not an expert in this field. And again, I like to admit when I'm not an expert in something and help and get smart people to help me do these things. But I will say that, having good content then to back up your strategic targeting is also really important, because if you're getting them in front of these people's eyeballs, but you're not putting anything out there that's going to stand out. I mean, even if you're targeting really well, there's still going to be so much stuff out there that they're seeing. So you sort of have to come up with good creative as well. And some people are really good at that themselves. And again, that might be something that's worth throwing a little bit of money at to have somebody help you out with. But especially at the holiday season, everybody's online. There are events and stuff too, but that's when people are really, they're ready to spend. And so if they see something really cool with a good hook that's delivered right to them because they are the perfect person to see it, then that's when you're going to get the conversions. There was something else that Sean said that I really wanted to like, that was really good that I wanted to
You
reiterate,
think
but I
about
can't
it.
think
I want
what
to
it
have
was.
find
Yeah.
Kirsten, how do you find people who are connected to Pittsburgh? You don't want just people who live in Pittsburgh, but people who were born in Pittsburgh, people who want gifts from Pittsburgh, right? Because your drawings are generally architecturally around Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, currently. And it is surprising how much I ship. Yeah, I have local pickup, which I have turned off at the moment, but like for people who are in the city or often very close, but yeah, across the country and in world until, yeah, shipping is a little more confusing internationally lately for me. I don't know if everyone else has that experience, but I guess it's no surprise that the top three, I was just looking in my Etsy, the top three most sold items are being advertised. And I would say it's like an 80% return on those things. So what we have just to share is like the Heinz Field drawing. That one's so great for Steeler fans. And, you know, it's definitely like those are the kind of the tags. But and I'm spending like very, very little in Etsy, like $50 for a 50% return, $25. I think this is just more sticky. Yeah, $25 on a card set, Pittsburgh classic card set has yielded just since the last month or two, $180. So that's a
That's a
good,
great ROI. I bet everybody would
yeah.
love that ROI.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not for everything, but these are kind of my test products for this. And the other one that's kind of an oddball is I do like draw bottle drawings, like bar gifts, like, you know, alcohol cocktails. And this Amaro piece has really done quite well. And I don't know, I'll have to kind of follow up, but why Etsy picked that up to promote, I'm not sure. But I was cruising Pinterest, which is like a whole nother avenue for marketing we could talk about, but it was like highlighted, and I don't know how to work backwards and finding why or how Etsy decided to grab hold of like just a random print. I mean, I'm advertising it, so maybe it was, but yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a lot of research. What did you call it?
Cross-pollination between
Yeah.
the digital.
Carol, do you want to talk about the Pixel? Because I don't think most people, including me, know much about it.
You know what? I honestly don't know much about Pixel. What I was going to say for people that haven't done much digital marketing is the beauty of digital marketing is that it's relatively affordable. You want to experiment, you want to test your messages and your content. It's amazing that the campaigns that we've done that changing a photo, changing a couple words in that the brief copy that you can put with it can really magnify results. So it is about experimentation. It is about having a true customer profile when you're approaching this. But subtle word changes can really make a huge difference, whether you're selling solar panels or whether you're selling Pittsburgh-based products. It's crazy how minor tweaks can really result in big changes in your sales. But that's also the beauty of that. It is inexpensive to try things. And once you kind of optimize, and like Sean said, it's always going to change and evolve. So you have to kind of be ready for the next thing you want to say about that particular product or service. But that's kind of the beauty of
Sean, can you tell us about Facebook Pixel? There's a conversation going on in chat about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook Pixel is basically, it's hard to put a definition on it, but essentially it's a number that you're going to allocate with your metadata and your website. So basically what that means for a e-commerce owner is really that Facebook can see what's happening on your website, and you can make an informed decisions in terms of when you're doing Facebook ads. You can consider a conversion, or it can read that a conversion happened, or an add to cart happened, or what have you. So it allows Facebook or Meta, sorry, I keep saying Facebook, but Meta advertising, so Instagram and Facebook, to be a little bit more nuanced and involved with your website. It's really pretty easy to set up. There's a bunch of things. You just Google search how to set it up, and then you can incorporate into whatever e-commerce platform you're using. For Shopify, it's as quickly as just copy pasting it over, and then just verifying that it's been connected. But it allows for more nuanced decisions when you're actually doing paid marketing. And the sooner you put up, the better. So we can start tracking this extra data, and just allow you to just make a better decision when it does come to marketing. And in terms of actual marketing spend, I would, when you initially start, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to figure things out. I would say, again, every business is different, as I mentioned earlier, but I would say at least a minimum of like about $1,000 just to spend to just figure crap out. So slowly save, whatever your business looks like, slowly save. I again wouldn't recommend you do it until you have those foundational pieces in place. So when you are bringing customers to the website, you know it's a level of optimization. There's always going to be tweaks. Don't strive for greatness, not perfection. So don't get too much caught up in the minutia of it all, because at the end of the day, there's a million different things you can change with the website. Oh, this, and this. But at the end of the day, you got to think of the decision process of when I'm making a big change or a small change. Is this going to be the difference between $1,000 a month or $100 a month, whatever, to $10,000 a month? And that can usually help me make an informed decision based on if this change is really worth my time and effort.
Caroline, are you using that as well?
Yes, although Sean definitely knows more about it than I do, but I have been using a Facebook Pixel, or Meta Pixel. And yeah, I mean, my understanding of it, yes, is basically that it's tracking and it's learning. So yes, implementing it sooner than later, is a good idea so that it can learn your website's behaviors and your customers' behaviors, to just get more and more data. I mean, the one thing that I pick up from any of this is that the more data you can have, the better, because you can just target things more accurately. Another way that I do that as well with Google Analytics is to use links that will tell me where people are clicking from, and you can build those in Google Analytics. I don't know what they call it, UTMs, and that's really easy to do. Like if you send out an email, you can then make a link that says this person clicked on this link from this email campaign from this box in this email, and Google is going to have all of that information for you with Google Analytics. So you can really get very targeted about which of your email campaigns is working. You can use those links anywhere you want. You can put them on your Instagram if you're linking to something, so that you know where people are clicking from and where what you're putting out there that is getting good results.
Well, and we have that in the chat. Thank you, Angela, for sharing how to set that up in Google. But
great.
Here's the irony. If you don't look at the numbers, all that information doesn't help you. And
exactly, yeah. You need to actually go back and look at those numbers, and and it's not always easy to understand, but it is so powerful, even just to get those things out there so that it's recording. Even if you don't look at it right away, you've still got the information rather than not having it, which is going to serve you better in the long run. It's kind of like just get that pixel set up so that it's learning, so that it's doing that work for you in the background. And then when you need that info, you'll have it. So you're not starting at square one.
Just a silly question. That's not just a rebrand of Google Analytics. This is something additional I would have to
let me see if this is the same thing that I use. Yeah, no, this is part of Google Analytics.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, if everybody, it's pretty self-explanatory. You sort of put your link in, and then you add your campaign name and your source and everything, and it just builds you a link. And when people click on it, they don't notice that it's, that just takes
they don't know the difference.
Whatever, to whatever page you've put in. So it's your home page, or it's a product, or whatever.
You're muted, Katie.
Yeah, I just was curious because right at the top of the call, hi Kirsten. Right at the top of the call, I feel like all of you mentioned that you're still doing in-person sales as well, and shows and pop-ups and things like that. And I've heard so many of business owners talk about how hit or miss those events are, and how much of a big lift it is, how much effort it takes to physically show up. I'm just curious kind of what the why is behind continuing to do in-person events when you also have some good success online. Why keep doing it?
I think a big aspect of it is getting more towards shows and events that are more worth our time and effort. So it's a little bit more of a gray area in terms of, yes, there is you're not doing your farmers markets to figure out what works and what doesn't by trial and error or asking questions, what have you. But it really comes back down to doing bigger shows. At least this is our solution to that problem per se, because my time and energy can be utilized, a million different ways. And we find that the bigger shows and events that are really worth our time is what we're getting more towards. And we can utilize, let's say 4 or 5 shows as of right now with our current staffing a year, big ones, like especially because we're at the Big E right now, which is a 17-day event. So e-commerce is supplementary, but it's really about, at least in my opinion, is scaling back those shows and events as you continue to grow your business. And Q4, especially for a product that's us, is super giftable. You could just show up to basically anywhere. You show up to a gas station for all we care, and you're done the sale. So it's knowing your business and finding those nuances. It's going to change for every business based on whatever product you're selling, if it's seasonal or what have you. So,
And tasting in person is, there's nothing like it.
Right.
To taste some hot sauce.
Yeah.
It's huge. I'm starting to think my in-person shows are my only social outlet, right? Like as a small business working for yourself, you want to crash afterwards, of course. In 7 days, I can't imagine, but it is like very fulfilling.
Days.
17 days?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. 17 days of selling. So yeah,
Do
Oh,
all
man.
of you in here sell stuff? Like it's all like you're all
Products.
She's selling soap, you're selling pictures, he's selling hot stuff. Everybody's selling stuff.
I
Because
sell
I'm not selling
services.
stuff. I sell services.
I sell services in the way of like commission work. So I feel like it is at the end of the day a product, but it is more like customer based, where you're back and forth with the customer.
I mean, because I'm like thinking like I'm completely different from you guys, because my rentals are like it's not a one and done. They're
Right.
like renting them for an event. And when I have corporate, then I usually have those people come back, monthly or quarterly or yearly. We sell services like servers, bartenders.
Are you doing
sell
any
humans.
do you do in-person events like any
Not anymore. They're a complete and utter waste of time. I have
Okay.
to build out a booth that costs thousands of dollars. It's $1,500 a booth for me.
Right.
It's just and then I never get anybody, because the people that go to the bridal shows, and literally we found this to be so true, they post on Facebook Marketplace and stuff, then they'll say, oh, we're just coming to the bridal show to get free food because it's only $10 and we can get free lunch, free alcohol, and free everything. So
Yeah.
it's not really
I've seen that.
couples. Yeah. It's not our marketplace. And I've spent 5 figures on marketing with advertising companies, and also a waste of time. I've found that like just doing stuff myself, small, with my own personal designer, working with him one-on-one, because he knows the ins and outs of my business. And it's very unique. It's not like I'm selling a hot sauce. I mean,
No, it's a different purchase decision entirely. Harold, do you want to wrap us up and ask for any closing thoughts? We're just about an hour.
Yeah, if you could give one piece of advice, guys, to the people that are on the call here, what's the kind of best advice you've gotten about e-commerce that you'd like to share? Whether it's platform related, whether it's sales technique, what's your kind of your big thought to share with the folks that are here on e-commerce?
I think mine is, well, this is very product based, but I think mine is to invest in a quality product photographer. That's probably made more difference to my website than almost anything else that I've done.
Well,
Yeah,
that works.
we talked a lot about technology. We didn't talk a lot about the artifice and art and the design of things. But yeah, you're absolutely good, Kirsten.
Great. Thanks, Caroline. Kirsten?
For me, I like this fractional working, relationship with people. I think like, again, that's kind of in the same with the photos, but to what you are willing to let go of and work with people who know best, and to free up your time in that way. And that can be just the copy, or there's so many pieces to online selling that I think that's just really, look at what you can free up your time
Like
with.
you have a back office, this person, Peter, does all of yours. You're not even in Pittsburgh near your warehouse, right?
Half the time
Okay.
I'm there. And yeah, and right, I wouldn't say he's doing everything, but that really, right, like me being physically out of my business has helped me realize what I am willing to let go. I mean, I'm still tied to my computer, but those shipping for me is a big one to outsource, as long as it's done the right way. But like, those are the types of things, especially with products, that would be a real good use of your time, I would say.
Yeah, we completely focus on like interface and website,
Yeah.
not the back office and not the fulfillment. And yeah, there's so many components to this, right?
Next chapter, we need another roundtable.
All right, Sean, we're waiting for your wisdom.
Yeah, so I think I shared a good chunk of it. It really was those foundational pieces between knowing your customer, getting that email, and website optimization, and then building on that paid marketing pyramid per se, being at the top of it. But the other aspect of it, and at least for a product-based business, we have a physical product, I should say, rather than a digital product, is automation. And automation is going to look different in a lot of different businesses, but I think striving for that from the get-go, and figuring out what that looks like, whether that be shipping out your product via a third-party logistics, which is people that ship it out for you, making sure they hold them to a good standard, maybe even your production itself based on the product. But I think a big part of automation really allows you to live that. At least for myself, I value very highly that automation, and it allows me to, travel and do the business, and allows you to be flexible when the business desires to be so. So I think a big part of it is automation. That's obviously going to look different, but I advise you to figure out what that looks like for you, because it's been very freeing in terms of allowing me to make and work on the business rather than in the business. So rather than me being in the trenches, I'm working on the business from a CEO level. So I think that's been a huge strive for myself for the past couple of years, and I definitely advise it for all entrepreneurs.
And we haven't even
also,
talked about
Sean,
Good, Kirsten.
just to repeat the book name, your dollar read for the book club.
Sure. So it was there's two books now. So $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy, and then he has $100 million sales. He has two books now. They're both $1 each.
Cool.
But then the other one just came out recently. It's unbelievable amount of information that's super, super valuable that's packed into those things. My recommendation is also to buy the audiobook and then read the book at the same time, like while you're reading it.
Okay.
So, they're both $1, so might as well.
I'll put the links in the follow-up email.
Cool.
Awesome.
We are at time. Thank you all for joining us, panelists, Harold, my co-facilitator, my fellow staff members, our members, Caroline, Kirsten, Sean, Nicole, we missed you. This was fantastic. I so appreciate your time, and hope to see you at one of our other future events.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you all.